Hello everybody, my name is Austin James Jackson. I'm a professional landscape photographer based here in beautiful southern Utah. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you guys behind the scenes on a hike with me to a beautiful, beautiful slot canyon here in south central Utah. It is an amazing canyon for photography and I'm really excited to photograph it. Also in this video, I'm going to be talking about a few different tips and tricks that I use when I know that I'm going to print an image. Lately, I've been printing a ton of my photos, really liking how they've all turned out. So I want to make sure to continue to use those tips and tell them to you that I'm going to show you in this video. Lastly, the final part of this video, I'm actually going to get this image printed. I'm going to send it off to my friends over at ProPrints, and they're going to set me up with a beautiful print, something really nice to go on the wall. So you're going to see the whole start to finish process here of what a landscape photographer does to create beautiful prints. I'm really excited, guys. Let's go ahead and get this hike started. So I've been roaming around the desert southwest down here for about a week, and I think this is going to be one of the cooler places I've visited on the trip. Now, I've been to this slot canyon a few times before, but I'm really after a great photo to print is why I'm going back today. My photos from before, they had a few issues that necessarily wouldn't look great when you blew it up, but now I'm looking to really perfect and be a perfectionist out here in order to create my print. So as a landscape photographer, when you're going to create a print, you definitely want to make sure you've got a tripod with you. The biggest thing that you'll notice in print versus digital is that it's even more important that you get the photo perfectly sharp from end to end, because when you blow up your photo for print, the photo is much larger. People can come up right and look at it really, really close. As opposed to digital, you're just posting on Instagram and people won't be able to see it as easily as when you actually print it and blow it up big. So it's really important on a print that you get things super sharp from end to end, which is why I've got my tripod with me. I'm gonna make sure to really slow down, dial in my focus, maybe do a focus stack, which I'll show you guys, and do the whole 9 yards in order to get this photo absolutely perfect so that my print looks amazing. Now, the majority of the hike, you're just walking through this wash, which as you can see is not super scenic, but at the end of the wash, or maybe not the end, but further down the wash, there's this beautiful, beautiful slot canyon that's gonna be amazing for photography. I'm so excited. I'm out here in the evening. I'm gonna get a nice little evening light, which is gonna help to illuminate the canyon really nicely. So as a landscape photographer, you really need to have the perfect light in order to create a great photo, which is why usually you wanna go out around sunset or sunrise in order to get those really great conditions. I'm hoping tonight the light will be just perfect for my photo opportunity. Well, we've reached the mouth of the slot canyon, so we got to go back a little ways, maybe like a quarter mile, and then turn just to the right. That's where the really scenic spot is. So here we go. This is looking pretty sweet already. Wow. Step on these logs and stay dry, as long as we can at least. And wow. It's looking like we might have a little bit more water here. And this one, you're definitely gonna get wet going through, I would say. So lucky for me, I packed all 10 essentials, including number 7, which is a wetsuit. Just kidding, a wetsuit is not one of the 10 essentials, but it is something that I did pack because I suspected that this could be the case in this slot canyon. A lot of times there's water, and that's totally fine. Now, it might not be that deep. I might look like a fool for putting on a wetsuit, but I'm not that concerned about it because if it does get deep, I wanna make sure that I stay warm because I'm in here, and even though it is springtime out here, it is in the afternoon, so it's completely shaded, a little bit windy in here, so I could get cold pretty quick if I get wet, and trust me, that water is cold. So here we go. I'm gonna throw on my wetsuit and then we will carry on. All right, well, I'm ready to go, wetsuited up. So here we go, going into the canyon. We'll see how far the water lasts. Woo. Trust me, this water is not warm. Even though we are in the desert, this water is freezing. Woo. At least I got a wetsuit though. I think as humans, for some reason, when we look at dirty water, we associate it with being warm, because that's always what I used to think until I got into doing canyons like this. And then I realized that dirty water is sometimes cold if it's in a canyon. And in the desert here where it gets like no sun in the canyon, the water is just freezing. So this is definitely one of those cases where the water is super cold. And it's real narrow in here, so I'm gonna have to throw the bag on top of my head. And this is usually the part where it gets deep. Woo, that is chilly. Luckily, I'm relatively tall. I mean, I'm like 6'1", but if you were much shorter, it'd be a lot colder. Wow, this goes a long ways here before it gets dry. Whew. So you can probably tell, this is quite the narrow little slot canyon here. And I gotta turn sideways to squeeze through this one. Man, this is real tight. The things we do for photography, right? Woo, it's gonna be crazy up in here. And it stays pretty tight here. Man, this is a real sidewinder. Squeezing through sideways just like this. That's how you do it. And I can see the stripes up here. This is looking like it's gonna be amazing light. You just gotta get there. Woo, this is a workout to squeeze through this canyon. Oh, yeah. All right, it's a little bit wider here for a second. Now maybe you can see some of the stripes up here. Gotta go grab my backpack and I'll be back. All right, well, after the long struggle, we have made it. Thank you, bird, for that. But that's okay because this is one of those canyons where you actually want to be looking backwards, the way the water flows. Right now we're going the way the water doesn't flow during a flood, but you definitely want to photograph it from right here. You can see those beautiful stripes. It's looking amazing. Woo, I might do a little more scrambling up because I think there's another good spot right up there, but let's get locked in for photo mode. All right, guys, I'm in my photo spot. I did some tripod yoga to get it set up, so now let's talk photo tips. So the first thing, before we even look at the camera, you gotta put yourself in a printing state of mind rather than the digital state of mind. It's so easy to take photos and get lazy and do things that look good on a nice 6-inch phone screen. But when we're talking about print, we wanna be able to create images that are going to look spectacular at any size, including like bigger than what you're looking at. So I'm thinking about a few different things. Now, the first thing is making sure that everything is sharp in my photo. I'll show you guys what we're looking at here. And now for a landscape photo, the biggest thing of making things all sharp is doing what's called a focus stack. This is where I'm gonna focus on multiple spots in the image. And maybe you can see I'm using F11 here, which is helping me to get everything in focus, but I still wanna take multiple different focus points on multiple different exposures. So I'm gonna focus once probably here, maybe once there, and once in the back, which might be overkill. I might be able to do it with 2 focus points, but I wanna grab all the shots because obviously I'm not gonna be able to come back, and that's something that I can't really easily fix in post-processing. Just moving my focus point around, of course, I want to properly expose the image. It might be a little dark right now, but I'm happy with where it's at. And overall, it's looking really good. So those are some things I'm thinking about for print. Now, when I'm thinking about print, the other thing I'm looking at is like this wall is really cool with these stripes. It's nice and textured. I want to make sure that is tack sharp because I want my viewer to be able to look at this wall and really feel like they're standing right here, right where I'm standing right now, without having to go through all the trouble and heartache that I did getting here. So I'm really making sure things are sharp. I'm making sure I've got my settings dialed in. F11 rather than like F22, which yes, would give me more in focus, but it would also create a lower quality image. So F8 to F11 is usually going to be the sweet spot on most lenses in order to really get that sharp spot so that you can make sure that your image is as absolutely sharp as possible. The other thing that I'm thinking about here is that is this image interesting enough that people are going to want to look at it blown up large and printed? A lot of photos you take where you're just going to post them on social media, they're more like snapshots. This I feel like is really interesting and intriguing because there's so much to see, from all of the different walls to the stripes to everything. There's just so much going on in this image, so I feel like that truly makes it a really great image to print. Of course, I'm gonna have to go home and edit it and come through on that end of things, but in the field, I'm feeling like this is looking really, really good. Now, the other thing that I'd encourage you to do is to take exposures of all different orientations. So now I'm shooting a vertical composition, you can see. Before I was shooting a horizontal. So it's really important that you try lots of different things because what you think looks good in the field might not actually be what looks good when you get home. So do try lots of different stuff to make sure that you come home with some really great looking images. So of course I recommend using a tripod because it's going to help you to really slow down. Also, it's really nice for the focus stack so that you can make sure that all of your photos come from the exact same spot. They're much easier to align in Photoshop, but the tripod is really essential, especially when you want to print your photos. And also because I'm doing a long exposure in here, I don't want to have to bring on my ISO, which is going to increase more noise, which is not good if I'm creating a print. All right, guys, well, that is going to do it here in the slot canyon. It's starting to get a little bit dark, so it's time to head out. I'm going to throw my gear in my bag, run out and change clothes again, and then we'll continue the hike back. It should be beautiful once we get out there because the sun should be setting. Alrighty guys, well, that is a wrap. If you guys have never gotten photo advice from somebody in a wetsuit, go ahead and check that one off of your bingo card because I'm guessing most of you haven't. what a great adventure. So incredibly cool in there. I mean, the textures are just unbelievable, and I think it's gonna make a really great print. I'm so excited to see that photo on my wall. So I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna edit it. I'm gonna show you guys a few editing tips that I think that you might like, things that are gonna help you in order to create better looking prints. And then we're gonna go ahead and send it off to my friends at ProPrints, and they're gonna make it all happen. So we'll touch base when I get back home, when I start to edit this photo, guys. Thanks for checking out the in the field portion. We'll see you guys back at home. All right, guys, well, we are back home and I'm ready to do some editing. I'm super excited to edit this photo. I want to show you guys a little bit about how to focus stack, and then I also want to show you guys how I like to resize and sharpen for print in order to make sure that my images are going to look amazing on the wall. Let's go ahead and jump over into the computer and I will show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So as promised, I just wanted to briefly show you guys how to do a focus stack, which is the first thing that you're going to do when you go to edit your photo. So you can see I've got both my images here, and if I zoom in here, you can see that they are different focus points. So this is this bottom image here, and you can see how the focus is strong up here when you're close, but as you go further back, it is blurry. And this might not be a big deal if we're just posting this on social media, because it still looks pretty good like this. But if we're gonna print it out large, we definitely want it in focus. Now, when I show this top layer, you can see how this isn't really in focus over here, but this is in focus back here. Now, I know in the field I took 3 images, but I think I can definitely do this one with 2. So the way that you do this focus stack, you can call this like BG for background just by double clicking here. You can call this FG for foreground. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure to align these layers, because you can see if I toggle this, the layers are slightly moved just because when the focus changes, it slightly adjusts your image. So I'm going to shift click on both of these. I'm going to go up to edit, and I'm going to go down to auto align layers, and I'm going to select auto and hit OK. What that's going to do is it's just going to automatically align the layers so that they're in the exact same spot, and you can see it worked perfectly just like that. So you can see the 2 images now stacked on top of each other. Now, the way that you want to do this is by using a layer mask in Photoshop, or that's my preferred way to do it. There's a couple other ways you can do it, but I think this is probably the easiest and most forgiving way. So the layer mask button is down here. You're going to click on that, and then it is going to bring up this white box here. What a layer mask does is it either hides or shows whatever is on the layer. When the layer mask is totally white, it shows everything that's on the layer, meaning that we can't see what's below it on this particular photo layer. However, if we start to paint black on here with our brush tool, you will notice that, let me make my brush a little bit bigger here. If we start to paint black, you'll notice that now this spot right here is shining through from the bottom photo. So I want to grab my brush tool, make sure that you've got a low hardness and a relatively large size. And now what we're going to do is essentially paint out everything on the background that's not sharp to paint through to the foreground. And we'll start right in the corner here. I want to make sure we're selected on the background layer. We'll just start to paint that in. Now look at how I'm basically bringing back the focus in this particular spot of the image. Again, this is really important because it's going to help make my print look so much better. And eventually you'll get to a spot where it starts to actually hurt you, not help you, because remember that background is in focus as we get further away. You can always hit Command Z on a Mac or Control Z on a PC in order to undo if you accidentally paint too far. Because like you'll see if I paint in here, now I'm painting blur into the photo, which we don't want. We want to make sure to do this to both sides here. Just bring all that focus in. And again, this is just going to make our print look so much better when everything is sharp. And you can really feel the difference between like the blurry wall and the textured wall. And especially when I print this on canvas, I think that this textured wall is just going to look amazing. It's going to just feel just so perfect on canvas. It's going to be like you can almost touch it and reach out and feel the wall. Just paint like that. Now, just like that, you've got a whole image that is in focus. So you can see our background sharp and our foreground is sharp. Let's just zoom in, double check, and I'll show you this was before. Especially over here, it makes a big difference. This was after. So look at the extra detail that we're getting in there. And then on this background here, this was before, this was after. So we combine the two images, it makes a focus stack look a lot better. Now from here, you can either save your image back to Lightroom or whatever photo editor you're using, or you can just continue on with your edit. I'm not gonna show my whole editing process because it does take a while, but instead we're gonna jump to the next part of this video, which is going to be showing you exactly how you can resize this and sharpen it for print so that your prints look amazing. Okay, so I'm finished with my edit. You can see here is my final photo. I edited in Photoshop, and as you can see, I brought out a lot of color. We'll compare the before and after here. On the right is before, on the left is after. So I just brightened it up, brought out a lot of the color that I was truly seeing when I was out there in the field, because this raw photo doesn't quite do the color justice. It kind of reduces the color to make it a little more editable image. So you definitely want to make sure you add that color back. So what I want to do here is I want to select the image here that we will be printing. I want to control click on Mac or right click on a PC, and I want to go to edit in, and I'm going to edit in On1 Resize AI 2023. Maybe by the time you're watching this, 2024 will be out, but right now it's just 2023. Now I want to edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. I want to do a TIFF. I want to do Adobe RGB 1998, 16 bits per component on the bit depth, 300 on the resolution, and no compression. I'm going to edit it. Now the reason why I'm using On1 Resize AI is because I think it is the absolute best way to sharpen and resize for print. There's tons of different ways you can do this. You can even do this in Photoshop if you don't want to buy the extra program. But if you can afford it, I highly recommend getting this On1 Resize AI because it just helps you to resize your photos for print so much. A lot of photographers don't realize that you need to resize your images for print. This is going to be especially apparent when you're making a really large print because the photo you take on your camera is not that large. So if you print a large print, and of course this depends on the amount of megapixels, but if you make a really large print, the photo is just going to be increased in size, but you're not actually increasing the amount of pixels. Whereas using a software like On1 Resize, you're actually going to increase the amount of pixels in your image so that it's going to look good when it's printed large. So what you want to do is go to photo size, and I want to print this at a 40 by 60. We're going to print this really big. So you can see I'm basically doubling the photo here. So we're going to go to width as 60, and the height should automatically snap to like roughly 40. The crop must have been a little weird, but that's totally fine. I'm not too concerned about it. And then I'm going to be sending this off to my friends at ProPrints, and they are going to be printing it on canvas for me, I believe, which that is going to be perfect at 150 pixels per inch resolution. Depending on what surface you're printing on, you may want to adjust that, but ask the place that you're printing what resolution you should be using. I know for ProPrints, for their canvas prints, 150 pixels per inch is perfect. So we're going to select that, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to sharpening. So this is going to do all the resize for us when we export the photo. We're essentially just going to be upsizing this a bunch. We're going to go down to sharpening, and we're going to check the sharpening box on, and we're going to select the print preset. They make it really easy to do this. Now, looking at this photo on my Mac screen, it's obviously really small. And I can't really tell exactly what the sharpening is doing. Like I can see that it's making a little bit of difference when I toggle this on and off here, but I want to zoom in order to see it. Now I'm going to go to 100 because that's going to show me basically what it's going to look like on the wall. So if my screen was 40 by 60 inches and I hit 100, this is going to show me the whole photo, but because my screen is smaller, it's only going to show me a portion. Essentially, you just always want to do 100 because it's going to allow you to zoom in and see how it's going to actually look when you print it. Now, for canvas prints, I love this print preset. It does a progressive sharpening with the options to adjust amount, detail, and threshold. On landscape photography, I generally don't protect shadows, highlights, or skin, but you can if you want. You can play around with that. That's essentially just going to protect certain spots in your image from getting sharpened, things like the sun or like really dark shadows that you wouldn't want to be sharpened. So we can go ahead and adjust this. We'll toggle the before and after on the preset. It actually looks really good. You can see as I come over here, it's looking pretty good. I usually like to bring the threshold to about 10, and then I'll increase the detail all the way, and then I will adjust the amount as I see fit. Now, I don't want to totally bring it up like this because it just makes it too crunchy. It's going to be hard to look at. But instead, I probably want to bring this around 30 is usually a good spot.
You can see how that's just done a little bit. Now, I've obviously done a lot in the field to make sure that I got the absolute sharpest image. But for some of you guys, if you're using a lens that's maybe not as sharp or you slightly mess up the focus, you can make up a lot of that here. So just like that, that's looking pretty good. Like I mentioned, you can do this in Photoshop. I don't think that you can do it as well, but it is an option if you don't want to buy this extra software. If you are using on one, you can go ahead and hit export. You're going to get some options to come up here. I like to just send it to my desktop. I want to do a JPEG at 100 quality, and it's automatically going to resize because I did the resizing up here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit export. We'll let that load out. Then we're going to send this thing off to ProPrints. They're going to get that photo printed for me, and we are going to throw it up on the wall. I'm really excited. I think it's going to look amazing.
All right, well, the prints have been unboxed. They're hanging up on the wall behind me. You can see they just look fantastic. I'm super, super excited about it. Got it here in my living room over the couch, and the prints just look awesome. You can see on the right here, I've got the photo that I took and edited. When I talked to ProPrints, we decided we were gonna do a grouping, so I was actually able to design a brand new grouping called Grandiose. Now, this grouping is really awesome. We've got the 40 by 60 on the bottom, the 40 by 60 on the right, and 3 16 by 16s on the top. These are really meant to show off your amazing landscape or whatever kind of images you shoot in really, really big fashion. It's awesome to print your work up big on the wall, and I just think these prints look fantastic. In my room here, I've got this big window on the side that you can't see, but it produces a lot of light. So by printing this on canvas, canvas prints look great in rooms where there's a lot of natural light. Don't have to worry about the glare on the canvas like you would on another medium, so the canvas is perfect in a living room situation just like this one. Now the grouping is designed so it perfectly fills a rectangular space on the wall. You can see that's why we've got the 3 16 by 16s up top. This is gonna be a really great way to show off your photography. So overall, I am just thrilled. I'm over the moon with the amount of detail in this photo. Of course, the stuff coming out of ProPrints is just such great quality. In addition to the fact that I did a lot of things in the field to make sure that my print came out just perfect. You can get right up close within just a couple of inches to this print and it looks amazing. Printed out at the 40 by 60 size, it honestly feels like I'm still sitting right there in that canyon in my wet shooting photos. It's just an amazing experience, and I really love this whole wall for my living room. Of course, I'm in southern Utah, and these are all photos from southern Utah, and it's just absolutely beautiful and stunning. So I want to thank you guys so much for checking out this video. I really appreciate it. Really hope that it was interesting to you guys to show you the whole process as a landscape photographer, from hiking around in the field, getting through the canyon in a wetsuit, all the way to resizing, sharpening for print, and then here you see all of this stuff on the wall. It just looks fantastic. Hopefully it was interesting for you guys. Thank you so much for checking this one out. We will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.